Hi, I'm Lauri Flaquer of Saltar Solutions, and I'm here today on Focus Forward. And right now I want to talk about The Pumpkin Plan, fabulous new book. Great, just came off the presses. It's written by a guy named Mike, who also is the toilet paper entrepreneur. And he has an unpronounceable last name. But pick up the book, it's phenomenal. I have everyone reading it. I love it. So today we have recognized criminal defense attorney turned arts magazine publisher, Gail Weber. Gail is synonymous with the art culture here in the Twin Cities. And you can't really talk to anyone at all in the arts community that doesn't know Gail or her magazine, TOSCA. So today Gail is going to give us the skinny on purchasing art. But first, Gail, tell us a little bit about TOSCA.
Well, hi, Lauri. Thanks for having me here today. The name of the business is actually CitiesTASCA. And I started it about 6 years ago with the mission of trying to really promote the arts in the Twin Cities, well, in particular in the Twin Cities, and also to help to educate people and citizens about all of the arts events that we have going on. So that's pretty much Twin CitiesTASCA. We have two components. One is our magazine, Exploring TOSCA, which comes out quarterly and lists arts events by category. We also love promoting local artists in our magazine. And then Experiencing TOSCA is the part of the business that hosts arts events. So we do lots of fun arts events like Shakespeare Shoes and Champagne, Puccini Pasta and Purses, and things like that, just to help people enjoy learning about the arts.
Well, that's great. And where are the events held?
Various locations in the Twin Cities. We've had an event at the Wellstone Center. We've had a couple events at the Women's Club. Our next event, next Friday on August 10th, is at the Maple Grove Arts Center. So just wherever I can find a fun venue that kind of fits with the theme, that's where I host the event.
Oh, great. That sounds wonderful. So today we're here and we're going to be talking about how to purchase art. So why don't you tell us a little bit about basically how somebody who likes art can start to become an art purchaser. So tell us about that.
Well, I think the first thing that I would do if I were buying original art for the first time is I'd spend a lot of time looking at art. I would go on websites, the Minnesota State Arts Board, I think it's artistsminnesota.org or something like that, have a listing of a large number of Minnesota artists. You can look at their art. Go to art galleries, go to art centers, and spend a lot of time looking at art and see what you like and what really moves you. That would be the starting point. And then after that, I would think about what do I want for art in my home? I mean, those would be the two starting points, or my office, if I were going to start looking for art and collecting it.
Okay, so what type of things shouldn't come into play in the decision of buying art?
Well, I think the two main things in my mind would be to not think you have to buy art to match your decor. I think that you want to look for art that means something to you, that moves you or inspires you and makes you happy. And the other thing I would say is you do not need anyone's approval to like a piece of art. So don't see something that you absolutely love and then think, well, gee, I need to find out if this artist is famous. I need to find out if my sister will like this. Do people think this is good art for me to have? Do not do that. You need to have the confidence of your tastes and what you like. Those would be the 2 points I would give.
Well, I find it really interesting that sometimes people tell me, oh, well, I don't make any of those decisions. My designer chooses everything. I'm like, all right, well, that seems weird. Because shouldn't art be a reflection of, maybe the way you feel, the way you think, maybe, something about an expression of yourself? I mean, my art certainly is.
I think so. I mean, I have friends that have art that I think reflects them. It's not the type of art I would choose, but I really admire that they are confident in buying art that has meaning to them. But back to the point about the designer, I just want to say that I think in some ways, for some people, a designer is a good starting point, because a good designer will get to know you and know what you're about and recommend something that is something that you would like. And sometimes people need that pulled out of them a little bit. So it's not always a bad thing to take a recommendation from your designer. I mean, if your designer wants you to buy something you hate, that's bad. But if your designer is saying to you, I know you think it's really important to have impressionist art, but that's really not you, and you think about it and you realize that the designer's right, that's a good thing.
All right, so you think a designer can help you
Absolutely.
actually buy art that you'll be happy with over a long period of time?
I think so. I mean, I think if the designer is having you buy art you wouldn't like, then this designer is probably also doing other things to your home you don't like. So you just have the wrong, you have the wrong designer.
You get home and you're like, oh, I don't like any of this. Exactly, the wrong designer.
Yeah.
One of the things when we met, you told me something that I thought was absolutely brilliant. You said that there are 7 reasons that people buy art. Okay, now I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to ask you what they were because they were so phenomenal.
And now I'll give you 7 totally different reasons.
Okay,
No,
that's fine.
I'm kidding. Well, this is just from my experience from doing the magazine and being at a lot of art shows and talking with people who buy art. And I've kind of finally realized, okay, there are just certain things that are the reasons people buy art, and I think artists should know about that, number one. And I'm not going to address investment, I don't think. I mean, there are a lot of people that buy art for investment purposes, and that's just a whole other category. But I think the main reason people buy art, well, for starters, beauty's a big issue. Mm-hmm. So I always tell artists that I think the subject matter of the art is important because people will buy art based on what the subject is. So if somebody's a huge animal lover, you can bet they're going to buy paintings of animals. That's one reason, the subject of the art. Another reason, interestingly, is people will buy art if they have a personal connection with the artist. And I don't mean just, this is my sister or my best friend, so I have to buy her art. I mean, they've met the artist, and now there's been this visceral connection, and it makes them like the art better. That's the second reason. Oh, let me see. Third reason, people buy art that inspires them. That moves them and inspires them, so they see something that they think will make them happy in their house or make them motivated. That's another reason people buy art. I have to think about these. People will buy art to commemorate something. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people will buy art on vacation. I can't tell you the number of people I've talked to that said, oh yes, this is the print we bought in Hawaii and this is the beach we were on. It's a watercolor of the beach. Big reason to buy art. And then a corollary to that is people will buy art to create a memory. So, yeah, that's kind of hard to explain, but they'll buy a piece of art that they want to remember something, mm-hmm. and different than in the future, like maybe a portrait of their daughter, mm-hmm. or a painting of a special place. Okay, help me out. What were some of the other reasons I gave you that people will buy art? People will buy art to match their furniture, contrary to what we just said. And I don't think that's always a bad thing. Mm-hmm. But people will buy art. They'll look at something and go, this is perfect for my living room. This brings it all together. And so now
I have a little bit of a problem with that. I
know
really
you
do.
do.
I'm going to be honest with you because when we've discussed this before, we've always had sort of maybe even a little bit of conflicting opinions on that. But I think when you start buying art that matches your furniture, basically what you're doing is you're making it matchy-matchy. The art should reflect your personality, your expression, your feeling on things, and not your sofa. I mean, that's just my opinion. But
I agree with that, but when we discussed this before, you brought up a good point. You said that somebody who has Americana furniture, for example, red, white, and blue family room, they're going to buy something that goes with that because that's what they like. So they're not buying art they hate just because it matches the furniture. They actually like that. And by the same token, if you have a traditional house, and you're probably going to like more traditional art. So buying it to match.
Yeah, but I think the best is when you have this eclectic mix. I mean, I don't like to walk into a place it looks like cookie cutter. I mean, I don't know, that's just me. I think art is just more of an expression. It's the excitement, it's the dynamism, it's your personality. It could be symbolizing a place that you're at in your life. Like I look at my art and it's just, I see stages of my life with it. But, you know, I guess I just can't judge by myself, but you know, when you go into someone's house and that house is exciting and dynamic and eclectic, you know, when we were talking about Catherine Glessing, and she has art from all over the world. She's a phenomenal collection, absolutely phenomenal collection. And you look at that and it's just across the board. It's so interesting, it's so exciting, rather than to walk in and see, okay, I see why that goes with the sofa and that goes here.
I do agree with that. You're absolutely right. Yeah. That is true, because your house should reflect who you are and what you love and what you care about. And if it just looks like it's so well appointed and everything matches, then you're not really a true art lover, in my mind.
And when we look at your magazine, you have such a breadth of art in that magazine. So many different things. And not only just, you know, paintings and fine art, you also have opera, and you have, you know, plays and different things that are going on. It really is almost like a guide for people who want to get involved, who want to go and do things and to see different things. I love that. I think it's phenomenal.
That's true. Thank you.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
When I was reading, I did a little bit of research on you, it said that you started a dance troupe for your daughter?
An acting club.
An acting
theater
club.
Group, yes.
Theater group.
Yes.
Oh, theater group. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that. I mean, you're probably the only person I've ever met that has done anything like that.
Well, at the time that my daughter went into 7th grade, the extracurricular activities that were available to her were not the type of things she would normally do. She wasn't a big sports person. And so I thought, well, then let's create something. So she actually came up with the name. The name was Accomplished Creative Thinking. So for ACT. ACT Club. That was her name, which sounds really pretty presumptuous, like I can help you accomplish creative thinking. But in any event, we invited the middle school girls in her class to join, and we had a blast. These girls were so great. We went to lots of arts events around the Twin Cities. Mary Mack Miller helped me with this. And you know, went to some art exhibits, the Art Institute, ate at a Nigerian restaurant, went to a Black Nativity at the Penumbra. And then in addition to that, I rewrote Romeo and Juliet. Sorry, William. And my girls renamed it Juliet and Romeo. And they produced this phenomenal play. And it was, instead of two feuding, you know, families, the Montagues and the Capulets, they were two feuding hockey teams, one from Edina and one from Eden Prairie. And they sort of updated it, and it was a stitch. It was hysterical. So I'm kind of proud of that, and I was really impressed by these girls that if you take them and sort of put them in a situation and expose them to all these other opportunities, and then say, now you have control of it, you do it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They rose to the occasion. Mm-hmm. There were no tests. Mm-hmm. They planned the sets. They planned, blocked it. They did the whole thing by themselves. It was a remarkable group of girls, and it was a remarkable result, in my opinion.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it was very fun.
That's so amazing. I'm reading this. I'm saying, how does this happen? I mean, how does somebody go about doing this? I mean, I can't even. I wanted to know more about it. It was so exciting. The other thing I'm really curious about is what was the transition from being a criminal defense attorney, which normally people wouldn't think maybe is that, you know, creative type of thing, to a publisher of an art magazine? I mean, what happened? What, you know?
Well, you know, first of all, I hear that a lot, that they're so mutually exclusive. But I'm telling you, when you're trying to convince a jury that 7 eyewitnesses are wrong, you are exercising your creativity muscle more than anybody. So the creativity was finely honed as an attorney. And of course I did a lot of discrimination work too, so it wasn't just criminal defense. So I think that exposed me to more cultural type things in this area. And I did it for 23 years, and it was just time to try something new.
Well, that's great. It's great that you made that leap, especially for the art community, because you're so well respected and everybody, you know, is interested in the magazine and what you have going on, and you know everybody and everything, and that's great. Because people, especially artists, they need to have that help. They need to have, and buyers, that's the other thing. Buyers really need the fortification to know, to be able to make those decisions on their own. So the question I have is, what turns a buyer into a collector?
Well, that's a good question, Lauri. I really would say that as soon as a buyer has purchased their first piece of original art and can't wait to buy another one, they've become a collector.
Really?
In my opinion, yes. I mean, a real collector. Because they will buy another piece. Mm-hmm. They'll make it work.
So you think there's not a big difference between purchasing an original piece of art and, you know, just like a printed Target or something?
I think there is. I'm sorry, what was that question?
Do you think that there's a difference in purchasing a piece of art, an original, as opposed to something from Target?
Oh, I do. I mean, first of all, and Target and some of these other places have some really beautiful prints. Definitely would match some places in my house. But they're mass produced, number one. And so a lot of other people are going to have them. And number two, there's just this visceral thing, in my opinion, that happens when you buy original art. I mean, the original art itself is an experience. It's not just a possession. And to me, it's the difference between having fake plants and live plants. And it's okay. I mean, I have some silk flowers in my house, but it's nice to have the real thing too. I really believe that it affects you on a subconscious level.
Okay, what is the hottest, most fun, least known event that's going on, or, you know, place to see art in the Twin Cities?
Ooh.
Like something that people really wouldn't think about or don't know.
Well, one place that I really like is the Sanctuary Restaurant in downtown Minneapolis, because the owner, Naomi Williamson, will personally pick out the art. Just so happens I usually like the art she picks out, so I'm a little biased. And she changes it up I think maybe every 2 or 3 months. And because the restaurant itself is so unique, the art is always a beautiful experience, the way it fits in with the restaurant's decor. I'm sorry, she doesn't buy it to match. Oh my God, I almost sacrilege. But and I think in that atmosphere where you're having some of the best food in the Twin Cities, and you're happy and maybe having a glass of wine and you're looking at this great art, you're kind of getting all the senses all at once. So that's one of the great places to go see art. And then there's also, of course, tons of, I mean, Northeast Minneapolis, art mecca.
So where do you love in Northeast?
What do I a Frank Stone gallery, I absolutely love. I love their art, and then Frank Stone has this sculpture that you see it, you'll want to buy it. There's another sculptor in Northeast in Minneapolis, I think the Northrop King building or the California building, I get them mixed up. Robbie Sanfo, I think is how his name is pronounced. I actually saw his sculpture first at the Frank Stone Gallery, and I walked in, and that was one of those, I have to have that. How much is it? Fortunately, I could afford it, but
great.
And I don't do that very often, but that was one that it was this great metal sculpture of this woman with scraggly hair and a cape, and I keep knocking the cape off when I'm vacuuming, but love it.
So did you redecorate around that sculpture when you bought it, or did it just
no, I didn't. And you're right that there was no need to. It fit right in. I stopped vacuuming.
So, that's a way to solve the problem.
Yep.
All right. So now, from the opposite perspective, let's talk just a tiny bit about artists. What tips can you give artists that you think would I don't want to say marketable. I'm not going to go there because I'll never say, let's make the art marketable. But what things do you think that artists might be able to do to maybe stimulate sales or get their art to be, you know, more higher value or whatever? What tips could you give artists?
Well, first I want to say a lot of artists know much more than I do about this, so I don't want to sound too presumptuous, but I'll just speak from my experience, from what I like when I buy art and what I see other people liking. That sometimes I see artists overlooking. And I sort of touched on this before, but subject matter is really important. I have seen art that, and I don't know why artists do this, but really impeccable, exquisite artists painting something that is just incredibly boring, in my opinion. Now, if you want to paint that, that's fine, go ahead. But people buy art because they care about the subject matter, and even with the abstract art. I mean, people buy art because it says something to them and it tells a story. So I think subject matter is important. I know an artist that did an exquisite job painting a paper bag once. I'm not going to buy that because I'm not that interested in paper bags. Maybe someone else is. I think titles are important. Now, not everyone agrees with me, but I think untitled art is a mistake almost always. I know artists disagree with me, but to me, if it says untitled, that tells me it wasn't important or didn't have meaning to the artist.
Or it's confusing.
Now, some artists like to say,
confusing.
yeah, right. And some artists like to say, well, I don't like to title it because then that narrows the focus of the art, and I want it to mean whatever it means to the person looking at the art. And, you know, that's okay. But I think if you're selling the art, I think a title is important. And it's a hard thing to title art because if you get too specific or too narrow, then it narrows the meaning of the art, which then narrows your audience. See, subject matter, title. I think artists should have a good website. You have to have a good website. More and more people are buying art online, and I personally think artists should put the prices on their website. Most artists don't. They want you to call them, but I want to know the prices. I want to know if I can afford it and if I'm going to seriously consider buying it. I don't want to have to call the artist and discuss that. I think you should put your prices on your website. You can always put, but ask me about specials if you feel like you want to negotiate that price a little bit. So that was title, subject matter, and I think the final tip I would give to artists is you got to treat it like a business.
Absolutely.
If you want to sell, I mean, if you're just doing it because you love it, but if you're doing cathartic art, that may not sell as well, and that goes back into the titles. I saw a beautiful piece of art once that was called "The Day I Got Raped." I don't have a problem with anyone doing that, but that's a really narrow market for that piece of art, because I myself don't want to every morning look at a piece of work that reminds me of rape. So I'm not saying there's not a place for that. I'm just saying think about how you're going to market it, and if you want to sell your art, you have to treat it like a business.
Well, I absolutely agree with you. You know what? We're going to have to do another show because our time is up.
Okay.
And we haven't even scratched the surface.
No.
There's so much more I want to talk to you about. So I really want to thank you for coming here today. And really, really, really quick, in 3 words, what would make your life a success when it comes to art? Real quick.
If more people explored art, that's it.
Hey there, this is Robert Dempsey with your tips from the net. And today we are talking about research tools. Now, basically 2 classifications of these guys. There are free and they're paid. Pretty simple. So one of the first free tools that you can use when doing keyword research specifically is the Google AdWords tool. Now, if you go to Google, I can never remember the actual URL of it, but if you go to Google and you literally type in AdWords keyword tool, you will get there. And what is really cool about this one is that, well, first of all, it's free, but you basically just type in like a high-level keyword, like let's say you're selling herbal tea online. So you would type in herbal tea, and it will show you how many searches that and literally hundreds of other keywords do have. And you can look on a local basis, a global basis. You can slice and dice the data in many different ways. And it can also be a great way to figure out what other keywords you should be targeting. Now, personally, I'm a fan of the paid tools because they will do a heck of a lot more for you. And two of the ones that I recommend using, the first one is called Rank Tracker from a website called linkassist.com. It's link-assist.com. Now, this is a desktop tool, but it will help you with tracking your rankings. It'll show you which URL ranks for what over time. It produces reports that you can automatically email. So if you do this kind of thing for clients, or if you have a boss that you need to be reporting to on a regular basis, you can set it all up. It automatically runs, checks the rankings, and it also has a lot of great research capabilities in there as well, in terms of both giving it a keyword and getting ideas, and also looking at your competitors' websites and seeing what keywords they are trying to rank for so that you can just compete a lot better with them. Now, Rank Assist, the rank tracker from Rank Assist is a bit more on the higher end of cost, and a much lower cost one is called Market Samurai. It does a lot of the same things as Rank Tracker, but is also really a fraction of the price. I'm not going to quote a price right now because I don't want to tell you wrong, but definitely both of these are tools to check out. They come with a 30-day free trial. Google AdWords keyword tool is always free, so go ahead and try each of these and find which one works for you. So that's it for me today, and I will see you next time with more tips.